Hello everyone, and welcome to Lane 6. Some say it's the graveyard, where a certain zombie pillages while looking for Varna's pack targets. I'm your host Jotto, and with me this week is my co-host Hectares.
Hey guys.
And the man who probably doesn't need an introduction, the Mad Hatter himself, Mr. Tinygrimes. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Tinygrimes. I'm an insurance salesman, and I occasionally play solforge.
Anyway, so I guess we'll just start with what we've been doing this week. Give or take, why don't you start, Hect?
So just a quick roundup of the news. Set 3 forging was unlocked, and you want to jump into what I've been doing?
Good start. Good start. We've been doing this for 3 weeks, and he's like, no, I need to start with the news.
I forgot about that one.
You can go straight on to the news if you like, or you can talk about yourself.
I mean, I can just talk about this. The 3.1 release meant that I wanted to open my pack, so I did a nice pack opening this week and got some cards I was missing. And outside of that, I just enjoyed some changes to the game, but we'll get to all that. But that's what's new with me.
Oh jeez. Anyway, Tiny, anything from you?
Yeah, I also opened. I did a bunch of the Secrets of Solace celebration weekend. Had like 25 packs. I got the one copy of the Aloyan Legendary. So there you go.
That was only legend.
Oh, you only got one legendary?
I got a couple others. I got an Iron Maiden and a Dragon, but I already had them.
I only got one legendary out of my packs. My packs were terrible, by the way. I opened like 28 or something, and I ended up getting 3 of the new trackers, 1 of the new Master of Elements, a Forge Oracle, which I was very pissed off to see actually, and a Dizzying Sludge, which I was happy, and a Heart Tree.
Heart Tree, nice pull, sir.
It was the Troll Tree. So, besides that, I've been streaming a lot this week. No one else was, so I follow the policy of no one else is, I will. So it turns out I've been streaming every day this week.
No one else was.
You're on NA times, man. I'm in the EU. You're not awake when I'm streaming.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so it turns out no one streams when I have the time to because I'm in EU. So it turned in from on Monday. I was like, I'll stream when no one else is when I have time, and I've streamed every day this week. So
every day, nice.
Yeah, so apparently no one else streams when I would, which is okay, I guess.
What time is that? The one true time zone, Pacific.
No idea. I streamed I streamed for like 3 hours and closed out an hour and a half ago.
He's plus 10 from you, I think.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, plus 10. But anyway, besides that, the topics we'll be going over this week, Hect will be doing the news as usual. And then for the main topics, we've got the new cards, which will be probably the major one. Then we've got the Forge Watch Invitational Top 16, which I'm surprised neither of you mentioned in your last week's.
Don't ask me about that. I'm still mad.
And then we'll also be going over each format. Unheroic will be quite quick because it's only the seal change really. Unlegendary has a surprising amount to talk about, which I was shocked earlier today. And Standard has a lot to talk about, so we'll be doing those later on, and then we'll close out with the Q&A. So with that, I'll hand it over to Hect, who'll be doing the news.
Alright, so as I briefly mentioned, Set 3 Forging was unlocked, Set 3.0. So the 60 card release is now available to just play with, and if you've been saving up your silver just waiting for it, you can now just like spam it, and you're finally in time to try out the Brood Queen meta if you've been waiting to craft those, but
that meta's gone, by the way.
Maybe it's maybe that one.
We all miss it.
Yeah,
and I'm not joking.
We'll have to wait and see. I would definitely recommend waiting a week to craft before spending your silver. Things might not be what they appear, so. We'll jump into more of that later. Next up, Notherian posted a favorite alliance contest, which actually has a deadline of tomorrow. So check out on Reddit. I'm posting it in the chat, but check out on Reddit. Look for Notherian's post there. The deadline is 9 a.m. Pacific. I think that's right at the same time as some of the top 16 of the Forge Watch Invitational. So get those in. If you have something and you can't get it in before that deadline, I would recommend contacting him and just saying that you're working on it. And then we have, I'm not sure what the prizes are there, but there are actual prizes for that, so check that out.
One is a date with the Notherian, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably it. So yeah, the next one is unveiled launch and pre-cons. So along with the launch came 4 pre-cons, which were announced ahead of time. We now know all the contents of those, and you can pick up any of the 3 new legends in the 3.1 release.
I'll bring it up on screen actually. If you go into the store, there's the pre-cons. We'll talk about the legendaries and heroics in the pre-cons later when we go over the new cards.
Okay.
But there are 4 new pre-cons for the standard price, from what I can tell, 2007.
Yep,
guys, it's 3 pre-cons. Don't even talk about like there's a 4th pre-con. Come on.
There is 1 good card in that pre-con.
Regardless, you do get to pick up the heroic. So if you're just like, I need the easiest way to get the new heroic, that's a guaranteed way to get the respective.
For only $10, you can get a new heroic. Deal of the Millennium.
This is bargain price there.
The Solforge ladder has an unlegendary qualifier coming up on October 4th, and there's going to be actually gold prizes for that for the top 4. And if you haven't earned your spot in the Kale Cup Invitational or Kale Cup Championship, there's opportunity to get an invite for the first place, and then partial invite for or a partial. You earn an invite for if you win, and then you also can get in if your team has the most points in the tournament. So if you're on a team and you want to like send somebody, you get to choose who of your team makes it. No particular member has to do well in it, just be participating. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a neat flex slot that Kale threw in there. And then last on the news is the banish effect actually has a slight rare bug, but it is known that if you banish
two... It's not rare at this point, let's be honest.
Well, if you banish 2 cards in the same turn, actually the second one that you banish, that you choose in the deck builder,
it's
or
random.
Yes, it is. It selects something that you don't necessarily want it to select. So you can end up banishing something that you want to be playing, and actually keeping something in the deck that you don't want. So that's just something to be aware of. There's a little bit of a post on Reddit that Dubois did it on stream, and so it was confirmed with the SBE devs. So that is.
Are we sure that's not a feature?
I mean, at this point, like, the only people who are... I think that's to punish the people who are... the only people, I will say, who are actually banishing 2 cards a turn are trying to do something they shouldn't be. We'll talk about that later, though.
I disagree, actually. I was hoping to run a Pillager deck and really do insane things and get a deck size down to like 18 for player level 3 and go like Pillager, Suzy Q, Shallow Grave, and just banish everything. So
I don't mean that.
I guess that's
a certain card that has a second part of it with 4 letters.
Yes, some people are trying to exploit. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Well, that's the news.
All right. So yeah, quite light on news actually. There was a lot more actual topics this week, but not much news, especially compared to last week, which was almost a news overdose.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to go on to the first topic on this, which is the brand new cards. So I'm going to bring up my little trusty monitor capture thing here, and I have discovered that Solforge was like, you know what, let's reset your deck builder when you're not looking. No, I'm actually serious. I ticked off the legendary thing, so I'm going to do the heroics first and reset the whole thing.
Nice.
Okay.
Feature.
Yeah, about that. So, what we're going to go with first is we'll do these in alphabetical order, why not? I'll put this up in the picture thing so I can actually read these, because these are zoomed out for me. That is reverse alphabetical order. The deck builder still needs work, by the way, for anyone who hasn't noticed. Alright, so the first one we are going over is actually my favorite card from the set, which is Ashurian Flame Sculptor, also known as the new Master of Elements. And it is a 6-3 at level 1, a 10-7 with consistent at level 2, and a 17-10 with consistent at level 3, and it has exactly the same effect as Master of Elements. Now...
That's not true, though. Isn't Master of Elements any spell? This is only Tempe's?
Oh, true. Sorry, I meant in practical terms.
Okay.
Because I don't recall the last time I cast a non-Tempe spell with Master of Elements.
See, I disagree with that. Like, you can get a pact for free, that kind of stuff. I think there's
What, you want to
quite a bit of
pact your
versatility.
pact so that you can pact while you pact?
Yeah, why not?
That has happened to me, though. Someone has pact 3'd 2 Master of Elements when I was in Standard once. That was not fun. But anyway, so I've been playing the Mono Tempe's burn list, at least pre-patch, in Unlegendary and Standard, and I ended up getting first on Chaos Ladder with it briefly. I got knocked off a bit. I'm now sitting at like 4th or something. But it's a really powerful list. It was the kind of list it was preying on the AT lists, because the AT lists just get out aggroed. You just level all the creatures you want in level 1, and then level 2 you're like, hey, I have Shapers. Your life total is disappearing quite quickly right now. So you just kill them, and that's how you beat the AT lists, and the Brute Queen lists were like 50-50. So it was a very, very strong deck, and I actually think that it gained the most intentionally from this patch, because Flame Sculptor is really good. I think you still want some Master of Elements, because they're good threats at level 3, but at level 2 it's just flat better in my opinion. And at level 3, having consistent is a very big deal, and it still hits for 17, which is very relevant with the legendary we'll come across a bit later.
Yeah, the one problem with it is that at level 3, I'd kind of prefer Master's stats of 15 health. So
17.
Yeah,
It's
Jake and I tested this a lot last night, and we were kind of going back and forth on, like, if we don't want 6, let's say we only want 5, who's the one we keep 3 of? We're not entirely sure yet.
The way I've been thinking is like you run 3 of the consistent ones, and then 2 of the normal ones, because 2 is still decent for threats, but you really need consistent in that deck. But you still need Masters, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Hecht?
Just something that the burn decks will play. I don't see people experimenting with it too much other than slot it into a burn deck and see if it performs better than other things. It's something that has to be tested.
The legendary, which Rage of Kadros will go into a bit more depth later, I think that will enable some sort of aggro deck, and you may consider running this or Master of Elements. This is a bit more aggressive than Master of Elements, so 1 and 2 is the point, and you want to end the game by the end of 2, hopefully. So this is more aggressive at 2 especially, and it has consistent, so you can pad out the lost damage you need, maybe. I'm not sure, though. It needs testing.
Yeah. We tested that a lot last night when he wasn't in there, just because Tempe's has a million giant awesome dudes. So, but he might have a slot.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see, but he's definitely a good card. He's my favorite card from the set. How good he is, I'm not sure.
I'm going to have to disagree with you and call him nearly my least favorite card.
Well,
But that's okay.
I play Tempe's Burn. That's why he's my favorite card in the set. Anyway,
You're allowed to be wrong, Jotto. It's okay.
okay, good to know. From the guy wearing a top hat. Anyway, Bramblewood Tracker.
Shots fired.
That's all right. That's all right. Bring it on, Jotto.
Bramblewood Tracker. So, I've heard rumors of another tracker being in the game. I'm not sure though. I think I've seen it a couple of times. It's a bit like a blue moon. It's almost a myth. But this one, in all seriousness, is absolutely absurd. It has 3/6 stats at level 1, which I thought would be terrible, but they're not.
They are.
And I actually thought they would be, but I've been playing that.
They are. What are you talking about? 3/6 isn't terrible at 1.
Weirwood Patriarch. I'll explain
sure.
when I finish. But anyway, level 2 ends games, and level 3 also just finishes your opponent off. Basically, I opened 3 of these. I was not hoping to open 3 of these, but I wanted the other ones because I wanted to playtest them. But I opened 3 of these, and I was like, Constructed, I'm not really going to try Standard. So I tried it on Legendary, and it turns out it just flattens everything in that format. Because you play it in rank 1, you just play it, and then you have a Weirwood, makes it almost unkillable in that format, at least in one combat, and Battletech also sees a lot of play in Unlegendary, so you can use those to mitigate level 1, and then the level 2 just wins the game.
Alright, well I don't play on Legendary, so I'll just say
it's a
this.
fun format now, actually.
I'm not even sure this card is constructed playable, let alone good. Like, there might be a deck
Not in
where you
standard.
can...
I don't like it in standard.
where you can spread the board or something, but I don't think it's playable.
I've thrown it into Flex. I have one right now. I'll be experimenting as I get more. I don't know that you can run more than one, but I think one might be all right.
I know it's just super explosive, because it's a tracker that's also ridiculous on its own. The other interaction, I think, actually makes this, at least in Unlegendary, it's definitely ridiculous. Like, I was playing it for about 2.5 hours, and I didn't, like, after I stopped doing stupid stuff with the deck, I actually was winning pretty much every game handily. But I think the reason for it is, the reason why Tracker was bad was, one, because it was on the, like, you couldn't buff it to make it good in level 1 at all. It was just so flimsy, it just died instantly. And at level 2 and 3, the body wasn't big enough to make it relevant. So you just had this, it was like you put extra time into leveling this card that actually doesn't do much. Whereas in the case of Tracker, there are two things that have changed. First is Shardbound Invoker, with Tracker is just disgusting. I've done that a couple times today, and it's not fair.
I think that's your optimal case, though, right? Like, is there a higher upside play than level 1 under, basically bound creature? There was the bound creature. That was best case scenario, but there was never a case when it was bad. Like, I was playing Tangle Sprouts in that deck as well. It's always, so the interesting thing about it is you're getting the free leveled creature from Forge, like that Forge Oracle will bring you, except you're getting it way later.
That's just a bad card, though.
So, but I'm saying, like, what you're getting is that free level creature. So unless that creature is giving you a lot of value when it comes into play, it probably, you're probably banking on the consistent Bramblewood Tracker itself.
Yeah, and it was doing some crazy stuff. It definitely made Weirwood Patriarch go from okay, but not insane. Like, Weirwood was crazy in the past, but after it was changed, and also the game changed a lot with it, it went from being ridiculous to fringe playable. And I actually think that, not in straight constructed, I agree it's not good in standard. Like,
It is good in standard.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
But I don't think
Patriarch's still quite good.
I mean, I don't know. I'll test it anyway, because that's what I love doing. But I don't think it's that good in standard. But as far as Unlegendary goes, which I think it's its own format now, and it will probably become a lot more popular. It definitely changed a lot over one day. And this is one of the cards that made one of the new archetypes, like an AU list, which was unheard of in that format. So I really, really like it. I'm not sure exactly how good it is outside of Unlegendary, but at least in that format, it definitely will probably make a lot more people want to get involved with it.
Interesting. I feel compelled now to play the format. If you think Bramblewood Tracker like breaks the format, I can't imagine it does. And now I'm like, all right, Jotto, the gauntlet's down. I got to go in there and
it beat
the real
burn deck
up.
silly, which was the best deck in that format before.
Oh my goodness!
But it's a good card in that format specifically. In in actual normal constructed, I have no clue. I don't like.
I don't think it's going to be good because you kind of said two conflicting statements with him, right? So the first one is it's great with Patriarch. So okay, that's cool. But then you're also like, but you get to drop in a huge level 1, and so it's like if you're playing huge underdrops, they don't interact with Patriarch at all. So you'd basically be playing Patriarch to buff this one card, and then you're playing like whatever other decent level 1s like Eidolon or the other plants that are kind of bad cards. So it just doesn't seem like it all works together all that well.
There was a difference though. I see exactly where you're coming from, and that's why in standard, when you're running like Eidolon's a legendary, things like that. If you cut all that away, you end up with a format which is slightly slower because you don't have the Grim Gaunts to just blow everything away. So the format is slightly slower. Brood Queen just got nerfed, so it doesn't... Like, in Standard, I still think it's really good, but in On Legendary, it's a lot more about bigger creatures, so it doesn't punish these bigger creature decks as much as it used to. So what's ended up happening is that you level Patriarchs and Trackers over everything else, and also your Aloyan cards, which I was running Battletech and Strategist. And then if you play Tangle Sprout, then yeah, sure, it doesn't buff it until like level 3, and you might have under-level Tangle Sprouts at that point. But the point was, like, Shardbound was the best case scenario, but I also did stupid things like playing Lotus for free and then buffing all of them.
I do like that. That's kind of disgusting, but you're losing by a lot if you're making that play, which makes me think Tracker's bad to cause you to be losing by that much.
But at that point it was a case where I was playing against the 10-piece burn deck and they would clear my board like once with an Invoker, and then I literally played 5 creatures in one turn.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I have a hunch about this card, but it does. I mean, obviously it's been out for like a day. It needs more testing.
Yeah, let's agree on that. It's been out for a day and needs more testing.
I would shake your hand, but I can't.
I would not shake your hand.
Alright. On to Forge Oracle. Can we just all agree Forge Oracle is terrible and constructed, by the way?
I haven't actually even read it. I briefly glanced at it when that card looks awful.
It's basically, it's a 1/1 Technosmith that's gated on a Loyan that then has consistent.
I don't understand that. They're like, Technosmith is terrible. He's completely unplayable. I have a brilliant idea. Let's make a worse version of him. I don't understand.
Up the rarity and make it one of an 8-card set.
Yeah, I totally don't understand this card at all.
It's good in draw.
Hectares, seriously. I'm asking you a serious question, Hectares. Why would this card get printed? Do you have any ideas?
Mono A. That's it.
Yeah, but you
Mono
already have
A.
Technosmith.
But this is better than Technosmith in Mono A.
Oh, you do? Okay. So isn't he worse? He's worse at level 1, the same at level 2. Is he worse at level 3, or are they the same stats?
The stats are the same at 2 and 3, but he has consistent is the main point.
Yeah, he's got consistent. So I don't know what that gets you other than you don't risk anything by playing the level 1. You get, essentially you go for that trade that, high value 1/1 kills a 1 health creature, and then from there you're guaranteed the L2 and L3.
I saw this on Reddit, by the way, where people were suggesting it's like, no, you play it in Necromines. You play Killian to level the level 1 Forge Oracle.
I mean, that's reasonable. The problem I have with Technosmith and this card is that it's really only great level 1. On level 2, when you're leveling cards on level 2, you're making an assumption that you're going to be going deep into level 3. And it kind of depends on the meta. The meta's been really fast lately, and you can't really make that assumption. And certainly the level 3 discarding to level something is practically irrelevant unless it's like the slowest metagame ever. And that's my problem with this card, is it feels like, and Technosmith as well, if you're skipping the level 1, then you're skipping most of the value of the card.
That has made it good in Draft, though, because Draft has slowed down a lot with Seal getting worse at level 2.
I'll buy the it's not constructed playable line, unless you have something that's like Spirit, Tribal, then you get like some kind of AN shenanigan.
It's a Spirit?
Creature Spirit.
What? Why? Why is it a Spirit?
Oh. So my Uru can't even save it? Oh man, I had a Uru Forge Oracle deck.
They knew it would be too powerful if that interaction existed. So
this is one of 2 cards that should be allied in this set. The other one's Tomb Pillager. It's a Necreum guy wearing a Loyan armor.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
All right.
But
we got to move on from this guy.
Yeah,
there's no point in talking.
Anyway, so
Tiny hates this card.
Now, see what I mean, by the way, by the Loyan armor? He's carrying energy swords. Like, you can't just pillage fully working Loyan technology from a tomb.
Yeah, he's all set for his alt-art transformation. Activate, drop to base.
Like transform. No, we need a Transformers alt-art Tomb Pillager.
Yeah. Yeah,
that works. Now, I'm just going to say what this card is supposed to do, and then we're going to talk about what it actually does. Alright, so this is a zombie, first of all. It is Tarsus stats, so 5, 6, 9, 10, 15, 16, and it has consistent at 2 and 3. It also, when you play it, you don't have to, banish a Necreum card, so you can lower the size of your deck. Now, what this is supposed to be, and this only applies in Unlegendary, by the way, is it's supposed to be a consistent threat for the zombie decks, in both Standard and on Legendary that can banish cards you don't want to see again. So in Standard, get rid of Keeper, get rid of level 1 Zemuses that you don't want to see again if you don't level them. On Legendary, you get rid of the underleveled zombies you don't want to see again, or underleveled Extract's Wills against decks that have no targets for them. Get rid of those, play a more consistent game, and this guy has consistent. The problem is a certain card called Varna's Pact, and before I pass it off to, I guess we'll pass off to Heck this time, I just want to explain for anyone who doesn't know how this works. You can do stupid things with Pact right now, like playing, if you're going second, you play Tomb Pillager, banish itself, play Varna's Pact. You now have a 9-10, a 5-6 on the board. And that's the best case scenario for your opponent. The worst one is Tarsus. You play Tarsus on turn 1, going first. On turn 2, you play Tomb Pillager, banish level 2 Tarsus, Varna's Pact Tarsus. That is a 15-16 Tarsus, for anyone who is keeping track. Hecht, do you want to take it from here?
Well, I'll add something and then you guys can jump in. I think you guys have maybe even a little bit more experience with this than I do. But for people who haven't sort of witnessed this, it can be kind of tough to imagine what's going on. I would say you get this card, you throw it down, you take a card that's in your discard pile, and it just is gone from your deck, and then you're not going to draw it again. So what's good about that is that theoretically your deck gets smaller, and you're not going to have these underlevel plays. Later on, you're going to have a more consistently leveled deck. That's the good stuff. What's going on though is there's an interaction with some changes to the game that made some cards work. Now you have this opportunity for cards that are banished to actually end up being pacted back. So as Jotto was saying, so you could take something that is banished, leveled card, and have it be, because this isn't level gated, you can banish a level 2, which is only in your deck because you leveled, you played it in the first place. So you've gone from something that was a level 1 card that you had in hand to now a level 2 card in your discard pile, because it instantly goes into your discard pile. You can see the animation as it comes up on the screen, as it goes off to the right side of the screen. And now you have the level 2 in your discard pile. And if you then Tomb Pillage that card out of your deck, it's in your Varna Pact potential now. It's in your Varna Pact potential. It's also in your opponent's Varna Pact potential. So it's a very strange situation.
It's the only dead card. That's what makes it even stupider. It's 100%
right.
if you have these two cards.
If it's the first thing that gets banished and nothing has died, that's the card that gets pulled by Varna's Pact. So that's problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this is actually the card I would think I was most excited about, actually, because I had such cool ideas with it. So I was going to go, and we tried it last night. So we did like Tomb Pillager, play Shallow Grave, then you play Suzy Q on it. And so you're able to play cards like Jotto was saying. You play Zemus. You're not going to be able to hit them all. So you plan on leveling 2 of them. You blow up one with Pillager. You blow up a couple other things. We had Jake's deck down to like 19 cards on player level 3. He was just looping Zemus 3s and all this banana stuff on me. We didn't even try to do the Varna's Pact exploit. He's just a cool card otherwise. I don't know if he's quite tier 1 playable, but then when you throw in Varna's Pact shenanigans, he might not only be tier 1 playable, he might be quickly removed from card pool playable. I'm not sure.
He's actually, the interaction with, I think it's Pact that's the problem. Tomb Pillager is never the problem, because Dire Hound was causing something similar. The difference is Dire Hound didn't put a level 2 directly into play. So, yeah, basically, I played a little bit of Standard and immediately decided to completely switch over to focusing on Heroic and on Legendary for most of the rest of the latter season, I should imagine. Because I played my first game, and it was like, alright, so nothing happened with the first game. He was playing the combo, but he didn't get it on turn 1 and 2. So he didn't play it. Next game, I get 3 7/7 Lyrias on my board on turn 2. It was like, what? How did this... I'm actually going to make the the question here: how did that get past testing? How was that not noticed? Like, Pact is not an uncommon card in Necreum decks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually serious. Like, how? Because normally I always tend to fit on the constructive criticism side of things. So at the moment, because of how broken it is, and believe me, it is broken. Like, whoever gets it breaks the game open, and if you both... Like, you get some stupid situations where the Tomb Pillager player will put something into play, and then the opponent's like, hey, I have 2 Pacts in my hand. And they put 2 more of them into play.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get another Pact, and then it gets really dumb when Shallow Grave is pseudo-level gated, so you can Shallow Grave your level 2, and then combat if it dies, and then you get another one, and then...
So just listening to you describing this, it sounds like for somebody who's knowledgeable about all of these interactions and they're running this combo, they're going to have a huge advantage over somebody who's not knowledgeable about how this is all working.
If they're lucky.
If they're lucky enough to get the... Okay, so and what you're saying is that that little bit of luck early on just completely overshadows anything else.
Well, if you get the combo on the right creature, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
You actually win. There is no way back from a 15-16 Tarsus in an NU deck on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
That is also
That's
twice
tough.
as effective as a normal Tarsus.
Yeah.
You explain how you beat that. I don't think it's possible. You need to double burnout.
The one upside is that you've banished that leveled Tarsus. So if your opponent can somehow survive, you actually don't have a Tarsus 2 in your deck anymore.
The problem is living.
I realize I'm really looking for the silver lining there.
Well, and this is something I'm interested in at the moment, which is this last meta was Brood Queen dominating pretty much everything. My goal for this short window is don't give up on testing other decks. Don't jump into that deck, even though it's emerged immediately as potentially the strongest thing, potentially totally broken. Maybe there are strategies that actually do stabilize you or prevent that from being a real play. Maybe you discard something, not discard, but maybe you get something into your banish pile before your opponent, something like that. So that their combo is only potentially available to them one in every 20 games instead of one in every 3 games, 4 games.
Yeah. You can also play Aetherphage religiously and just yank that Varnus Pact away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's the only way of currently stopping this combo.
There's also the Herald of Destruction in Tempest. That doesn't stop it, but
nowhere near strong enough to stop that.
minimizes the effect to some degree.
I did see some other dumb stuff. Like, a lot of people have been saying, oh, it's Magic Christmas Land because you need a good creature to go with it. No, you can banish your own Tomb Pillager. There's some other dumb ones that I have seen, including Predator 2 on turn 2, Devourer 2 on turn 2. And you can choose where it goes, by the way. That's how Pact works. You can choose where it goes. Doom Rider, X-Wrath 2 on turn 2 with a zombie deck.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems is that because they're level 2s, they're actually immune to removal, so you can't just run Spite Mages or Botana Mages.
Can't do that.
It's hard to...
Anyway, I think I'll pass it on to you, Tiny, if anything else you want to add to this.
I would just say I actually like Tomb Pillager. I think it's a fun card. The problem is there's also the bug that has been acknowledged where you can't actually do what I said I wanted to do, which was play him, Shallow Grave him, Suzy Q, blow up 3 cards. If you try to do that, there's a bug where you're actually blowing up random cards at that point. And I gotta say, blowing up random cards, not nearly as good as blowing up the underleveled junk cards.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get to the Emissary a little later with that other bug with Tarsus. But basically, Tomb Pillager, the problem is Pact, it's not Tomb Pillager. I think until they fix Banish, they should probably remove it from the game at the moment. It's too luck-based. Even if it isn't the best thing you can do overall, someone is going to randomly lose. Every time you play against that deck, someone is going to randomly lose to that interaction for no reason. That's my problem.
It's going to really end up being how popular the deck is. Like back when was over the curve and extremely luck, it was fine until every single person running, and then it just wasn't any fun. It was just like, who gets lucky? And if a lot of people start running this combo, it's going to be the same thing. The forum's going to be full of like, the game's lame, and this happened to me, and I'm angry. So I think somebody's going to have to sort of monitor that and decide, like, are people you doing this a lot, or is it just like this weird thing in the game that occasionally someone does?
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's the latter, but it's probably going to be the former.
I think I agree with you on both of those.
Anything to say, Heck, before we move on?
No, just that Tomb Pillager, if it didn't have these sort of disappointing interactions with other plays, would be exactly as Tiny said, like really fun to work with. Just the idea of it shrinking your deck, picking out cards that you don't want to stick around, that'll be totally useless under level. That's really that sounds really good, and I want to do that as a player that is interested in tailoring my deck for the matchup.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It lets you do really cool things like one Krogius, one Botanimate, one of whatever you want, and then that's not going to work here. Bam, it's out of the deck.
Yep.
Yeah, I've just been reminded in chat to put on some list of stupid things you can do. Turn 2, level 2 Dark Shaper.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not near and it's backbreaking, but it's a good one. Anyway, so we're going to leave the Jotto one till last, because it's not in the actual game.
Dozer? We're going to leave Dozer to last? That's a good idea.
Anyway, we'll start with Nexus Ornaut, also known as Battle Tactician's significantly stronger cousin.
Yeah. I'd like to start here and just say, again, I don't understand. So we made a worse Technosmith, and now we're like, you know what card is awesome? Battletech. Wait, I know what we should do. We should make a much better version of that awesome card.
No,
I don't
Dice
understand.
to Tangle. Dice to Tangle.
Oh, okay. I don't get it.
Solved, guys. Dice to Tangle. I don't understand why.
What makes it better in your mind? Because I don't necessarily see it
Everything.
that way.
All right, let's look at it this way. If you play BattleTech at the moment, the stats first of all, at level 1, it's 1 less health, 1 more attack, which means it doesn't die to Extrath's will first of all, which may become relevant considering zombies. Level 2, again, 1 less health, 1 more attack. Level 3, it has 1 less health. However, it has mobility, which means if you play 2 of them, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you can play it with Nightbot because it has a lot of armor. You can play it in flex decks because you can just move it around whenever you want to. And I don't see a reason to ever play BattleTech over this. Ever. Mm-hmm. Unless you're in a format that can't run legendaries.
To me, I just say it's BattleTech only really, really flexible. Like, it's slightly worse than BattleTech in what it's supposed to be doing for the board, but it's just so much more flexible that I think it just makes it that much better. There's just all those moments where, like, you're going, okay, I want to be able to block in lane 3, but if I do, I have all these problems, and now you have the Aeronaut who can just wait, just bide his time and then jump over and take over.
Someone just mentioned chat who was playing BattleTech. The main point, though, is BattleTech was a good card. The reason it wasn't seeing play was because the meta literally just killed BattleTech. Brood Queen meta was so unfriendly towards Aloyan in general that wanted to do creature-based things that you couldn't run BattleTech decks. But the card isn't bad. It's really good. But it just, the metagame was really bad for it. It's like Thundersaur. Thundersaur wasn't seeing much play because Brood Queen kills it. But it's a really powerful card.
I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't even feel like we had a metagame. I feel like it was just like, oh, there was an overly broken card, and so then everyone played it. Like, that's not a metagame. Everyone plays the broken card until it gets fixed.
I remember listening to the Forge Watch, commentary thing, and they were going over it was hilarious. They did this for every single list. They were like, oh, this isn't like the normal standard Brood Queen list. And I was actually thinking to myself, wait a second, there's a standard Brood Queen list? They did this for every list, by the way. It was actually kind of amusing. Every single time we went over the list, oh, this is new, this is new, this is new. I'm just like, no, it's called Brood Queen because it has a 3 of Brood Queen in it, and it's NU. It's not called Brood Queen because of a shell. There was no shell. People were playing Branch Weavers, Devourers, Doom.
There were really quite a number of sort of takes on what what you could do with the list. That is true.
Yeah, that is
Yep.
very true.
That was the one thing that did make it interesting. Like, at least if there's a completely over-the-curve broken card, at least everyone didn't have the exact same 30 cards. Everyone was like, wait, I know how I can exploit this card. No, I have a better way to exploit that card. Okay, cool. Let's all exploit it in a different way.
That meta still had a lot of solving to do, guys. We didn't get quite there. We didn't fully explore that Brood Queen
Never
meta.
found the best Brood Queen list.
I say we go back. I say we petition to unerrata Brood Queen.
That's right.
Need to figure out that metagame. We can't move on until we have. Is there anything else to mention about Nexus Arnold besides the fact that it's making BattleTech look bad?
It's fun
One
to play
more
with.
thing. Go ahead. What was that?
Right?
It's really fun to play with.
Yeah.
It was the only legend from the 3.1 release that I picked up in my like SOS booster spam, but it was totally fun to play with. I picked up 2 copies. I ran it alongside Nexus Tech, and when it needed to be the center lane creature, it was, and when it didn't, I got 4 armor in a side lane with the Nexus Aeronaut on it, and you can do all sorts of crazy stuff when you start stacking armor. So it is quite fun to play with. The mobility as was said earlier is just really really flexible.
I think I want to try it with BattleTech also, and just have this situation where I always have a board buff on board. 6 of them. One of them is just sort of waiting in the wings for the other one to die. I think it could be really strong.
This is one of the other reasons why Unlegendary is becoming its own format, by the way. Because not only the 4 heroics are seeing more play in that format, but the Nexus Arnold has made BattleTech a much more unique thing to that format. Which I'm fine with, because Unlegendary was just kind of standard without finishers before. Like, it was still Brood Queen lists. The difference was you didn't have the Grimbons to actually kill your opponent quickly. So I'm happy about that, because I like that format, but I never got the chance to play it that much because people didn't. So that's my input on this, but I don't like the card because of the whole BattleTech thing. But it looks fun to play, and when I eventually get them, I'll try them.
I kind of feel like this show has turned into an infomercial for Unlegendary so that Jotto can find opponents.
No, we have that later. We also got standard.
We haven't even gotten there yet?
No.
Oh, no.
It's worth mentioning, though. Anyway, Rage of Kadras, the first good legendary spell for Tempest.
Nope, it's not good. It's freaking amazing.
Same, yeah.
So, when this was spoiled, I was on the Forge Watch Invitational chat, and I was like, oh my goodness, that card's like maybe too good. And people are like, what are you talking about? It's not even good. There aren't any good Tempest creatures.
Good.
I was like, what? Yeah, we tested it last night. It's bonkers.
So good. My favorite one is the, like, you can do it with any Tempest creature at all because there's so many good ones. My personal favorite is Burn. Like, Elements with Shaper is already crazy on the same turn.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get Elements with Shapers, and if you're playing the new one, then your level 1 spell does 11 damage.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. We built that. Shapers, Rage of Kadras.
It has no depreciation. It's like 2 attack per level. No one cares.
Yeah,
based on your board.
It's really, really, really good. I cannot emphasize how good it is. The problem with the card, though, is extremely luck-based. Like, so what happens is you end up playing against it, and every turn you're just like, oh god, if they get a rage this turn, I'm dead. And then like the other turns you're like, okay, I remove their stuff, I'm going to be okay. And then there's always that one moment where they have the window, and if they draw rage, you lose, and if they don't, you're fine. And it actually is kind of frustrating to play against.
Yeah. There's a lot of good Tempest creatures that, like, Brawler has to hit them to do something, and this lets them get hit by it, because it does 8 damage to it. That kills an Ebon Skull and an Eidolon, like the 2 biggest things.
Are you trying to say Flameblade Champion's going to be real now, Jotto? Is that where you're going with this?
Actually, I made that as a joke when I was looking at the cards originally. I mean, it's like, oh, Flameblade Champion might actually get some love. In all seriousness, I would never be surprised, to be honest, with any Tempest creature that hits them getting some love right now because of this thing. It just clears the path.
Sure.
But
It's really good.
he also hits.
There's multiple decks, too. There's the Burn deck, it just slots right in. And then also just big, giant dudes, and then you just punch them in the face.
Yep. Heck.
I'm ready to start playing my Abraxas. That's what I know.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Hipster animals, guys. Get ready.
Oh boy.
Double kill what's in front of it.
Yeah, this card is really
so
good.
silly.
It might only be the second best card raw power wise, but it might be the best. I'm not sure yet. I'm still evaluating myself.
It's really good is the point. And it's not Call the Lightning. I'm happy about that.
You know what's cool? You can play Call the Lightning with this card.
Oh god.
That's pretty cool.
Anyway, Rage of Kagros is definitely a really, really cool set. It's my favorite legendary. But,
That's your favorite legendary? Are you mad?
in this set. Not my
Come
favorite
on,
legendary.
Hectares. It's not your favorite legendary, is it? Tell me it's not.
Dies to Etherphage? I don't know.
Dice.
Yeah.
I can't favorite a spell.
You can Aether Rage the Rage.
Yeah, you can. You will. You'll have to.
He raged my
Yeah.
rage.
You'll have to.
Believe me, there's nothing more annoying than that. Jake and I were playing, and it was like I decided to play the Brood Queen deck, and it was just like every turn Etherphage, and I hit almost half his rages. He was really upset.
Here's a funny one, by the way. Bin Ben.
Maybe the problem is you'd have to get a lot of spells to be able to then play
yeah.
Rage as what, the third
It's-
spell of the turn?
No. Bin Ben triggers first.
Oh, Bin Ben does trigger first.
Because it's
Are you
when
sure it's not
play-
random though?
It's like Shapers, I think. Like when you, it's a triggered ability. It's really confusing. I've had problems with this in the past. But Bin Ben, it's either random, but then you get the second spell and it kills whatever in front of Bin Ben, which is fine, or it just kills everything. But Bin Ben obviously is not a good card, but the point is having a fun card get better is not a bad thing.
Oh, I agree. And after the next legendary, I want to make a plea to Stoneblade, but let's wait till we do the next legendary.
Okay, I'll just introduce this one and then I'll hand it over to you immediately then. Alright, so we've got Suruzal, am I saying that correctly? Suruzal?
I don't know.
Susie?
Heck.
Susie, the emissary of Varna. So, Mrs. Emissary here is a 4/3, 8/7, 14, 13. And whenever you play her, you can basically destroy anything on your board and immediately bring it back. So it's the basically it's like the shallow grave effect, but you destroy it as well. Now this is level gated. I have not had the opportunity to test this, but I think it may or may not be slightly busted. So I'm going to hand this over to you, Tony.
The only reason it's slightly busted, well, maybe not the only reason, but Deathweaver. Deathweaver is just crazy.
Triggers,
So
doesn't it?
this is the worst part of Deathweaver. And this is what the plea I want to make to Stoneblade. You have to not have random triggers. It can't be, am I going to get a 7/9 or a 9/11 Deathweaver? Because it can trigger twice. I don't know how it triggers twice, but 50/50. If you blow up your Deathweaver, it comes back as a 9/11 level 1 Deathweaver, and you pretty much instantly win the game. And it's just ridiculous. And it would be fine if it was one way or the other, and you could plan for it, right? So it'd be like, all right, I'm going to make this play, and I'm going to get a 7/9 Deathweaver or a 9/11. Having it be random is just, I don't understand what's going on with these random triggers. Like, you can't have a game where it's that much randomness, I don't think.
That's not fun.
I don't know. What do you think, Hectares? Should they make stuff like Doom Rider and these triggers random, or should they have a set order that they go through?
The order, trigger resolution, all that, that's a bigger topic than I think this card. It's tough. For me, the randomness in the game is not harmful, but making sure that it stays on the fun side of things. I really do like Skill Shriek. For whatever reason, that interaction doesn't bother me. Even if it's a big swing, your opponent often takes a big risk in order to get, if they play to an empty board, that kind of thing. I think my issue with something like Surazal is not...
Stormbringer's fun as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, there's maybe some risk involved. As long as there's some downside, I really like it. I don't really like it when there's only upside, and maybe this is an example of one of those only upside scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it right now is that when I read this card, because I looked at the rest of the set and I was like, oh, they're trying to support monocolor, right? Like, there was a lot of the monocolor restriction, all the way through the heroics and the 10-piece and okay, just 10 piece because the Eternal one doesn't count, had the restriction on it, and I expected this to have the restriction on it, but it doesn't, which I'm very surprised about. To be honest, I'm fine with doing it on Necrim cards anyway, because Necrim's the best color in the game, and obviously needed the help that the set gave it. But the other thing that's kind of weird about this card is that they added the From the Hand thing here, but not on Direhound.
Well, I mean, it's good they did, because if they had not put From the Hand here, it would have been insanity.
Could you imagine playing this on turn 1 and then banishing this with Tomb Pillager?
Yeah. You could do so many things. There's so many... What I love about this card is it opens up 2 different archetypes. Like, Necrim Beatdown with just her and Deathweaver is a thing. If you have 9-11 Deathweavers and you have like 3 of them, you win Beatdown style. But you can go the opposite way, and you can go like Killian, Shallow Grave, blow up Killian, level 2 cards, and just have like 3 leveled Iron Maidens and 3 Zemus 3s. Jake had a deck last night where he had 3 Zemus 3s, 3 Killian 3s, 3 Iron Maiden 3s, on like 3.3 or something. I was like, what is going on here? It's mad.
Gnomes is funny. This happened to me once or twice. There was a couple of games that happened to me, which is maybe sign off standard for the moment. But this did happen to me where someone actually... I saw this on stream first, and it happened to me it happened to me a little bit later, where someone actually went Gox on turn 1, turn 2, Tomb Pillager, and he banished a gnome. And then and then he went Pact, Gnome, Susie the Gnome, Susie the Gnome, Gnome, overriding Gnome. I'm just like, what? It was so silly.
That does sound like a good combo.
It's just like, what? Why is... I mean, I keep coming back to Varna's Pact, and this is like crazy on its own because of the random trigger thing with Tarsus. But between this and Varna's Pact, I think Necrim is just like the best color by far, not even close anymore.
I don't know. I mean, Tempe's with Rage is really, really, really strong. Like, it can win.
That's how you kill the level 2. You play a Brawler in front of it, and then you Rage.
Yeah, I mean, Rage is real strong. But I agree. Like, to me, just have... Like, Deathweaver is a bonkers good card. And then having a giant Deathweaver on the board, that's the real crux of the problem comes in. Because then you can play stuff that exploits Deathweaver. They can't kill Deathweaver. And you're just getting this giant beatdown board out of Necrim, which it just seems weird to me to have a Necrim Tarsus Deathweaver beatdown deck. Like, it just doesn't really feel like that should all be able to be together. Like, I'm fine with Deathweaver being a great facilitator. That should not be a beatdown card in addition to being a facilitator. That's where my issue comes in.
Chat's just informed me it's Necrim only, which is really, really odd. I'm going to try and replicate that then.
What's Necrim only?
The banish thing. So I'm not sure how that happened.
Yes, it is. Tomb Pillager's Necrim card.
How the hell did that happen? I'm going to test this immediately after this podcast, by the way. Because I want to see how that happened.
I think what happened is so many crazy things happened to you that you lost track of that, and the anger set in, and then they all merged into one.
But no, I'm actually going to test that after the cast, and if it ends up working exactly the way I remember it, then I'm immediately like putting that on Reddit. Because that should not work.
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
But basically, Susie Q is the ultimate combo card, which should be a really fun, cool card, but actually enables completely broken things to happen. That's how I'm looking at her.
Yeah, maybe this should be something like Allied Aloyan, right? Where you're only able to bring back the creature, like you get half of the effect if it's not allied.
How do you
that might help.
What does half of the effect mean?
How do you do half the effect?
You can destroy a creature you control. Don't get a new copy.
I call that none of the effect. Here's what you're talking about.
Well, it's mandatory. You can't cancel it.
You still get Thuruzal.
It's mandatory, man.
I don't know.
You cannot cancel that.
I'm not sure that fixes anything because you can still blow up Deathweavers. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
What I don't understand is how does Deathweaver even trigger twice? Like, I don't get that. It triggers before it dies and after it dies. I don't understand.
How does the stack work there? Actually, yeah. It'd be nice to get a clarification on that because I think I saw David in chat actually. How does that work?
Yeah, I feel like
I believe that Zemain is working on the actual sort of description of what the order of operations is there. He's done a lot of the work on the advanced Solforge rules. The guide is up on Gox's socks. Last I talked to him, he said he would be updating with these kinds of new interactions that have emerged with the set 3.1.
Someone's just filled me in, by the way, as to how that thing I saw earlier happened. I must have not looked at the screen at the right time, because apparently what will have happened is that he overwrote the gnome. So he played a gnome first and then overwrote it and packed it back.
There you go.
I was about to say, like, how the hell did that happen? But no, it is actually possible. I do a lot of this. People will know this from watching me stream. I don't look at the game very often, so I actually look at the log a lot.
Let's move on to the Utera Legendary if you want, and then I'd like to kind of make a summary statement on...
Yeah, we'll go with it. Alright, I'm going to turn off monitor capture on this because I need to actually bring up this on... It's on Gox's socks, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the full spoiler.
So let me ask this question, though. Why are we even talking about this card if it's not in the game? Just as like
because it's supposed to be in the game, and I think it needs to be
It's not.
about.
Okay. I'm just... to me, it's really interesting that they're like, oh... Here's a precon that doesn't have new cards in it, and we're still releasing it. That seems odd to me. Like, Jake had an interesting idea that you just give them a IOU. Like, I owe you 3 of this card that's coming.
I guess. Anyway, so roaming world. First of all, this is. I actually made the joke, Tiny. You called it in your stream yesterday. I made the joke of like the Warclaw is actually unprintably bad. And it turns out it is. It is actually unprintably bad.
I don't know if that's why they didn't print it, because they said it was too bad.
Like,
they did print a worse Technosmith.
Okay, this is a worse Colin, which is also Technosmith. Damn it. Alright, so basically, Roaming Warclaw is one of the single worst legendaries I think I've ever seen. First of all, the 1/1, it's actually on par with some of the really bad ones. Maybe below. Basically, the level 1 is a 1/1 that has the Shardbound Invoker thing, so it has the Enrage on a stick. So if you target itself, it's a 4/4, you can put on something else. I was like, nah, that's not good, but if the other like 2 levels are really good, then I could see that seeing like a decent amount of play, maybe with trackers or something, like to get them into play for free. And then I read it was mono Utera as well. I was thinking, okay, interesting thing here. Keep in mind, this was at 4 in the morning, because spoilers happen in the evening for the NA guys. So this was like 4 in the morning. I got up early because I was expecting a spoiler. And I get greedy with this thing. So at level 2, it's the same thing, but it does the whole board. And then at level 3, this caused a lot of problems in the community where people were really confused. What it does is it puts it fills your entire board with roaming Warclaws. Then it does the level 2 effect. So some people thought they were all 16/16s, which I was like, that's really good, but then the level 1 and 2 are bad, so that makes sense. Someone thought it was a 16/16, 13/13, 10/10, because they trigger in order. It turns out they're all 4/4s.
Yep, so it's like an absolutely horrid Echo Wisp 3.
It's a Lotus.
Yeah, it's actually a bad Lotus. if you're just filling the board. But the plus side is, like, the level 2 is a roar with the dudes. Like, if you're in some deck where you just want to be able to roar over and over and over, I actually think there'll be a place for the card. I just don't think it's going to be... Like, it doesn't match well with the other cards. They're like, here's 3 dominatingly good cards, and here's a really, really niche card that will rarely see play. I think that's where most of the reaction had come from. If this is in a set of, like, the set 3 set, and this is just one of the legendaries you look at and you go, I could maybe see a place for that, but it's not amazing. It's just hard to justify, like, I'm going to buy 3 precons so I can have 3 of this super niche card. I think that was the big issue.
It's even worse than niche. Like, a lot of people compared this to the power level of some of the really bad set 1 legendaries. However, what a lot of people don't seem to realize is the reason those are bad is not because the cards are bad, it's because the effects are not constructed worthy. Like, Flow Steel, I think, is maybe making a point right now, but has always been traditionally bad because it's too slow and the effect is kind of weird. And same with Scorchflame Sorcerer, body was too small. Same with a lot of the other like set 1 legendaries. But the main point is that this is not some crazy effect that is sort of fun and everything. It is an enrage on a stick. Just play Ferocious Roar. You will get far more out of that card than this thing. Like,
I'm not sure I agree.
Well,
the problem is this card would be broken good real fast. So my guess is in testing, it was like ridiculously overpowered, and then they kept scaling it back and scaling it back to a point where they were comfortable that wouldn't warp the meta, and then what we're left with is a card that's, well...
Definitely won't warp the meta, that's for sure.
No, I don't won't answer
to say about the balancing of it, but I think you're probably right that it could get out of control if it weren't kept in check. What I will say is that the design of it is more like the card that flips the attack and health. What is that?
Turnabout.
Turnabout, yeah. Turnabout has a changing design at all 3 levels. And this card has a changing design at all 3 levels. And I think it's one thing that is interesting about those cards is that because the effect changes, it can be challenging to take advantage of the card to the fullest. It's sort of like it's more situational at every level than cards that just get automatically better.
It's being referred to as a bad Brood Fang without poison or the Brood Queen.
I don't think that's a fair
In chat. I just thought I'd make a comment on that.
So even if the effect isn't changing much, it's changing, I think, in this case, enough that you're not getting the value. Like, it's not a 4th roar because you're not getting the roar in PL1, right? That's not what... So you can't, like, count on it as an under-level roar. So it's not exactly that 4th copy of the card. So it's because it's a changing design, you're getting... Unless you're planning to to play it on level, play it when you see it, you're getting the level 1/1/1 with +3/+3 to target Utera creature. And unless that's something that your deck really wants, I think that's where this card falls down. It's like unless you specifically want that effect at each level, that's going to be really tough to take advantage of.
Yeah. Because you can't play it you can't just like play it to the board and be comfortable unless the metagame is really slow. And you're right, it's like the worst underdrop ever. So it just doesn't work very well.
Something else about this card is like the Necrium one, like Susie doesn't have any restrictions on it. And they've got like Tomb Pillager, Transfer. And then this one's like only Utera, only from hand. Like 1/1 at all levels to make sure. It feels like this thing was really, really good at some point, and then was like put behind so many cage bars that it's just ended up being like lonely in the background. Whereas the rest of the set, 3.1 stuff is like roaming around. So it's, I think what made it even worse in terms of the backlash from this was it was the last card they spoiled. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. This was the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. I was like, I can't wait for that Utera card. It's going to be amazing. And I'm like, oh, what? Yeah. But that is really how testing works, especially with small companies. I don't test with Stoneblade, but I've tested with lots of smaller companies. And that's what happens is like the group gets enamored with a deck and a card, and it's just too good. And so that's the card that gets hammered, whereas these other cards that people just didn't play test as much kind of slip through. And then you're like, oh, why didn't we look at that card more? It looked kind of bad, but it's actually good. And then now that this other card and that archetype got hammered, now this deck and its archetype are suddenly elevated far more than we had ever anticipated.
That's true. Just the last thing on this. This is a quote from Eon, by the way. He's been trying to push this like all day. The level 3 is scatter the dinos. It's basically Phyto Bomb, but yeah, I think what made the most impact about this was that it looked like it was the kind of card where, because of the way the wording is, a lot of people tried to convince themselves it was better than it was. So when it was confirmed that it's actually just 4/4s, I think it was a very disappointing thing for a lot of people.
Because it looked like it could have been, with how bad it is on level 1. You thought, like, the level 3's got to be something special, right? Because the level 1 is so bad, you have to suffer through this card. And then they're like, no, it's actually not that good. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just put it in a pile of unplayable legendaries with the rest of them.
Yeah, which is a bit disappointing when it's one of 4 in a set, but what can you do, am I right?
Yeah.
Alright, keeping that in mind, we've pretty much gone through most of the formatty stuff, so we'll do summaries on that at the end, unless you want to do some sort of summary on the cards themselves.
I wanted to say that I'm hoping that Stoneblade can do, I don't want to say better testing because I don't know what the answer is, I don't know what the problem is, but this set and the last set both had a lot of card interaction issues that surprises me with how good things have been and solid up till now, and especially with such a tiny set release. Like, with the big set, you're kind of like, okay, stuff happens, but when there's only 8 cards, and like it's Varna's Pact issues, which is just a gimme, and the last set it was like, we released a card to combat Lotus, and then that interaction was a problem. It just feels like really simple interactions are being missed, and I'm just surprised, and I'd like to see, I don't know what I'd like to see. I'm just surprised, and I would like to see them not happen as much. I don't know if any of you guys have any suggestions, something constructive that we can add to this.
I mean,
but it's becoming a little bit frustrating.
I would say at the moment, though, if the whole pact thing becomes excessively, like, just silly, because at the moment Standard seems to be shaping up to be one hell of an annoying format. So if the pact thing remains to be an issue and they have to like fix the whole banish thing, I would actually recommend disabling pact. Like, I'm actually serious, and it's the kind of thing where I enjoy playing NU decks, so it's the kind of thing where I would probably be on the front of the pact thing, but I would actually recommend disabling pact until set 4 when you fix the banish mechanic, because every time there's some sort of banish, it just causes issues. So I don't think it's worth holding on to pact at the moment. Because of banish, so I would recommend disabling that right now at least.
I could probably be on board with that just because we already saw a pretty heavy packed environment. I mean, I don't actually, I'm gonna hold judgment as far as whether pact is broken right now or not until we see what the meta shapes up like. I mean, Rage of Kairos might be so good that people are like, yeah, pact's great and all, but Rage just punches you in the face so hard you're dead. But I wouldn't be against it just on the surface of pact already dominated once. If pact begins to dominate at all, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just remove it. I'm also hoping they fix the Tomb Pillager random banish thing sooner rather than later, because that really is a fun card. When you have an 8-card set, 7, sorry, and then one of them doesn't work, it's kind of like, okay, so now it's really only a 6-card set, and I don't know, if you're going to have a tiny set, the cards really do need to work properly, I think.
Yeah, but what's funny is, like, it's very, very easy to focus on the negative stuff, but in all honesty, like, the heroics, besides the Forge Oracle, were actually really, really cool ideas, and 2 of them are really, really awesome to play with, and the third one is a bit, it's awesome to play with when it's played the way it was designed to be played. Like, the way the mechanics work properly, it's really fun. And that's why, as I said, with Unlegendary, like, all the standard interactions, that's why it's been getting more popular, because, like, immediately, because all the standard interactions that have been breaking these new cards have been legendaries, because legendaries have the more flashy effects, mostly, because you can't put flashy effects in a draft environment. So they have the flashy effects, and it also means they have a lot of weird interactions. So that's what's happened to Standard at the moment, and we'll have to see how it goes.
I'm going to have to just temper that a little bit. I totally disagree with you. I think Standard is still the format. I think it's great that you're pushing on Legendary hard. I think that's awesome.
Support. But the point is,
but I think it's good still.
For me, I will be playing Standard because it has the most support. It has the constructed queues, the most, like, tournaments, everything. Like, it's the main format. That's why it's called Standard. But I am going to try more of the budget formats this season at least.
I know that I need to be playing all the formats. There's a nice tournament coming up, and I want to win it. I've got 1 bye. I could earn a 2nd bye, but I'd have to work really hard on the ladder because I haven't played the ladder in a little while.
I'm going for that.
But I need to learn all 3 formats for the upcoming Kale Cup Championship. So.
Yeah, that's something which both of us have to focus on. But anyway, so speaking of standard and constructed formats, we actually have the Forge Watch Invitational coming up this week, which is not going to have the new 8 cards, 7 cards in it. So, Never mind. Anyway, so it's not going to have the new cards from the set in it. It's just going to be including the balance changes to Brood Queen. How do you guys think this is going to shape up, considering you were both in the group stages for that tournament?
My bitterness makes me not care.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. Brood Queen and AT were the lists, the only lists. And Brood Queen got nerfed, and AT got buffed. So you would think that there would be some kind of shift from the major 14 out of 16 Brood Queen list being the top 16 into the growing the 2 out of 16 into maybe 8-8, maybe even 10-6 kind of thing. I don't know if we'll see new decks though. I don't think people have had time to commit to a 1 week meta, like a 1 week meta game where it's for one tournament only, to actually develop something new.
Yeah, it's hard because it's such a huge tournament. Like, it's really the biggest tournament there is. I mean, World Championship qualifiers are cool, but this is something that, you know, you've had to qualify for over months, and it's a multiple weekend event. Like, this is the premier event, and to have something like this happen halfway through, it's really frustrating if you're in it. So in one way, I was actually kind of relieved to not be in it, so I could actually play with the new cards and just have fun and not be like, okay, what all has changed? To be honest, I played the Brood Queen deck that I wrote the article about and smashed Jake with on the Forge. I've been playing that against new decks and doing just fine with it. Like, it's still an amazing deck, and I have to imagine the packed version is still really good. But I think the biggest change in the AT list will be Iron Maiden. I think you have to have it now for the mirror. Whereas before, Iron Maiden was a liability because it was just too slow. If you leveled it, you were kind of screwed against Brood Queen because you can't level it multiple times against Brood Queen and waste tons of actions. Whereas in an AT environment, Iron Maiden is the trump card. I think, I'm going to say it right now, in a slow meta, Iron Maiden is so good that it might actually be bad for the game. Like, it's that good. And if it becomes an AT environment, it's really going to boil down to who draws Maiden first. It's that good.
Hey guys, we have some news that's literally just come in. The Weekend Warrior for this weekend is going to be unheroic. So I'm going to be farming tickets.
Interesting.
Yeah, unheroic is my best format actually. So I'm really excited for this one.
I've played on Heroic twice.
Huh. You should have fun trying to adapt within like 3 hours.
I do like experimenting with Weekend Warriors, even if it's not my format in particular. You know, that 4-faction Highlander is a little bit tough to test for, but...
I didn't do that one. That was the one I skipped. I was like, I don't even know what to do about that.
It was so much fun, man. You missed out on a lot.
It sounded like it, but I think I was testing for the Invitational or something, and I just thought, I don't have time for this one.
That was a solid bronze pack for me, so...
I love Weekend Warriors, because my favorite thing is deck building. I'm a terrible pilot, but I love building new decks on the fly, so Weekend Warriors are always kind of, like, really, really fun for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm going to say something that I didn't get to say that I really feel like I need to clarify. Sure. I do feel like this last set, the last expansion, is really cool. I think the design is really fun and interesting. It's just the implementation of the design that was problematic.
Yeah, I actually agree completely. As I said, like the heroics will have their place. Forge Oracle, even in draft, it's a really, really good draft card. And not especially heroics, don't have to be constructed playable. They can just impact draft. So I think it was very, very well designed. I really, really like the ideas behind all the cards in the set. It's just the implementation, as you said, was off. But the designs are really, really cool. It's just they missed a couple of really, really weird things. Wait, is there a? I think there's a mistype. Wait, what the? Oh, there's no platinum packs for this one.
What?
You can't get platinum packs for playing in this one.
What do you get?
It's all scaled down one. So instead of bronze, you get a booster pack. Instead of silver, you get a bronze. Instead of gold, you get silver. Instead of platinum, you get a gold.
How many tickets does it cost to enter?
No, that's exactly the same.
3
tickets. and then 3 back, 4 back.
My mom always told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. So,
So instead of ticket bleed, we have pack bleed now?
I don't, I don't know, whatever.
If that isn't a typo, then that's really annoying.
It's probably not. I mean, their theory might be like, if we're going to let you play in a queue with cards that you didn't have to actually spend money to get, then we can't give you the highest level reward for doing it. I mean, I can see the business theory behind it. I do not agree with it, though.
I mean, from a business point of view, it makes sense in that regard. I do think that it's not good from a community.
One of the things that is important with these weekend warriors is that they keep experimenting, as well as target different markets than the normal queues. I would guess that this queue appeals to people that are struggling to collect heroics even, and don't have any legendaries, and that they don't necessarily need a platinum pack to motivate them. They just need to be able to put a deck together that they actually have the cards to do, and then maybe they get into the competitive level, they get into that more closer to constructed standard format, because they've got this, opportunity to test their skill in a format where they feel like things are fair or things are on their level. And I really like this. If it meant for Stoneblade to change the pack payouts in order to make that make sense from a business perspective, as you said, that's totally worth it, because I would love to have new names cropping up on the tournament reports, and just, new people that like constantly stomp me in the constructed queue. That would be hilarious. Like, just go from going regularly 3-1 without necessarily having the utmost focus every tournament to going like 1-3 from that perspective. That would be a wake up call. That would make me step up my game, and I think that's the experience I'm looking forward to.
I do think.
So bring it, guys. Bring it this weekend.
A couple things that one thing. I mean, as far as the going along with this decision part of me goes, is like you want to maybe discourage a lot of the really, really high end players from playing like all weekend. Because a lot of the newer players will be playing in that format. The problem is that the logic would work, but the way it happened, I mean, I don't know how it's going to work after patch, because there's a lot more support for those. But pre 3.1, the way a lot of the player base worked was standard was the competitive players who put money into the game. Unlegendary was a lot of budget players because they just didn't have legendaries, but they were drafting for heroics. Unheroic, however, was a mix of new players and really, really experienced veteran players who wanted a change of pace. So unfortunately, well, the aim is to discourage people from doing that. What's going to happen is there's going to be like 6 people, I think, like 6 or 7 people who are just going to literally be playing unheroic all weekend, farming gold packs and 4 tickets every time.
Yeah, but farming gold packs is not an effective...
Farming tickets, however, is a good way of doing it.
Maybe. But most really experienced players don't have to farm tickets. You just have piles of tickets from being experienced players. So I actually think... You know what? I retract my statement, and I agree with Hectares. I think it's actually good that they don't have platinum packs. It's bad for the people who are playing on heroic, but it's actually good because it will discourage. Like, there's no way I'll go in there. It's not worth it for me. And I think a lot of top-level players will take that approach, which will make it actually a more fun environment for those people who are going in. So actually, you know what? I retract my statement, and I think it's good.
Exactly. That's my good side of it as well. It discourages a lot of the really, really hyper-competitive players from playing that format. In my case, I will, because I enjoy Unheroic a lot. Like, it's my favorite format, so I'll play it when I get the opportunity to play against a much bigger pool of players than normal. I'll go ahead and play it, have fun with that. But the other reason is, and I can't be the only one who does this, I'm guessing there are some other people who do this, but I actually play in constructed queues, and I do the normal thing of just sort of maintaining ticket level and occasionally going up. But whenever I get to 7, I do a draft, and then I usually go 2 and 2 because I suck at drafting, and then I do the same thing for a week. So I can't be the only person who does that, but that's what I tend to do. So I usually sit between 3 and 7 tickets at all times.
That's funny. I'm sitting at 83 tickets, mainly because I never draft.
Yep.
That's a good way of looking at it, I guess. But
if you're gonna draft, bring your absolute A game.
Yep.
Or you'll bleed tickets.
I just enjoy drafting. I suck at it. I just enjoy drafting.
It is super fun. Like you're not gonna have the same experience. Even if it's a very similar deck, it's not the deck you just ran through 10 queues and 3-0, 3-1 or 4-0'd every single time. You're gonna hit a deck that 1-3s. You're gonna hit a deck that 4-0s without you having to do anything. So sometimes that's fun, just to switch up your experience.
It's a new experience each time, which is why I like drafting. But as I said, I need to get better at it, which will take a while, I guess. But if their aim is to discourage the people who just, who grind the queues, like Technonaut, for example, who just grinds queues like non-stop while he sleeps, probably, and just keeps going all day, every day, and they're trying to make a sort of a situation that's better for newer players, I can see exactly why they would do that, and I'd actually be on board. I'm actually on board, because I'll play the format because I enjoy it. I don't really care what the prizes are out of it, because I have most of what I need right now. I'm just missing a couple of the newer ones. What I need, so I'm going to play it because I enjoy the format, but I do like the fact that they're trying to set up a situation that's better for newer players. So I'm definitely on board, and that makes all three of us devil's advocates, I guess.
There you go. Good job, Hectares. You turned it all around. You're the man. The people's champ right there. Stoutmeister, you lost your title.
Oh, jeez. Keep in mind, guys, by the way, we're going to have a 5-10 minute or so Q&A session at the end. So we're also only going to be looking at actual serious questions. So don't bother with anything stupid or we just won't answer it. So I'll give you guys a bit of warning for that. So basically, if you want a question answered, go for it. If you want to make Hect's life a nightmare, I guess, trying to keep track of these questions, just fill it with crazy stuff. But anyway, so before we move on to Q&A, I just wanted to go over a brief sort of summary of the three formats, because it's not just the new cards, it's the balance changing as well. I guess 4, draft is included. So we'll do full 4 formats. I guess we'll start with draft, since we kind of going from like a segue type thing. Tiny, if you don't draft that often, I'm guessing this is going to be mostly me and Heck talking about this. So, draft was essentially NU Seal, followed by NU Seal, followed by people playing ways of killing people before they play NU Seal. That was a good way of summarizing the draft up there. And I played a couple drafts since batch I was... I did my dumping tickets today, and... I played a couple of them, and to be honest, it was a lot more entertaining. That I didn't have to worry about the +9/+9 seal that was going to come and get me and try and murder me in my sleep. So it was nice not having to play around that continuously. But I think the actual major impact was things like the balancing that we talked about last week. Tower Scout, the new the health on the horse, just a couple nice balance changes here or there actually made a big difference, and it felt as it was a much better sort of balance in terms of drafts. I didn't feel like I was obliged to go Necrania Terra anymore, because 10-piece and Aloyan got a lot of extra support in terms of the commons for draft, and I was actually having a lot of fun with it. So I'm not sure if you've done any drafting since the patch act.
I've gone through 4 or 5 drafts, and I've hit a lot of 2/2s. This is not a form the changes have been significant when it comes to the new heroics that have come in. They've actually played out in a number of games, and one of the it hasn't been one specific of the bunch. I think I lost to the Frostwild. What is that card called? The tracker.
The new one.
Yeah, the new one, Bramblewood.
The one that wins any draft you play in.
Yeah.
I call it the Jotto tracker.
That's a good way of putting it, actually.
So yeah, I've lost to that card. I've beaten Etherforge or Forge Oracle. I think just in one. I've just played against it once, and it was very close because of that card. That card kept coming up. My opponent kept hitting draws, and it was that was a real struggle to play against. But the fire one, I don't think is that that relevant. I think that's a lot harder to get value from in a draft environment where you have to actively monitor how many spells you pick up. And then the Necreum one, it was relevant. I don't think it was dominant, but it maybe becomes more dominant as the game drags. So,
solid creature.
Yeah, it is. It is a solid creature, and its effect is immediate. So if you did end up with that just sort of weaker creature that you don't even want to see as one of your potential draws, your MVP Sprout, your maybe a not Verdant Grace, but maybe you ended up with, not currently in the format, but maybe in the future, Druid's Chant makes its way into your deck. You don't want that. You don't want any Mending Springs in your deck. You just pull them out. That sounds handy. So I kind of like that.
You can't. It's Necreum only.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We had this discussion already where I discovered you have to overwrite the gnome. You can't banish it.
But
Yes,
Hectares, I
that's
totally agree. That's
I
the draft
agree,
card
yeah.
that I would want most.
That you like that one. Just fix your deck a little bit. That's the one thing I've seen about draft that people sort of had hoped would exist, or that that's one change that they would like to see, which is instead of playing all of the cards that you pick up in the draft, build out your deck from like pick 40, play 30 kind of thing. And this sort of helps toward that end.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All of the heroics, I think, are properly designed for draft, where the Master of Elements is not that good because Master of Elements was always overpicked in draft when it was there. It was just always overpicked. So it was not as good as a lot of people thought it would be because spells aren't as good in draft. Especially when Master of Elements was around. But the other ones, like Tomb Pillager, feels like a really, really cool card in draft. Solid creature, has consistent, thins your deck out. Really, really cool card. Very, very subtle card, and I'm happy with that considering we've just gone from NU, Seal to Win to Tomb Pillager, which is a very, very subtle card. And it's actually a bomb in my opinion because that's consistent. Forge Oracle, I would agree, is also a bomb because Aloyan cards are very, like, if you can level your Aloyan cards, even for free, like, you can play a Forge Oracle out, it would be terrible, but you can play a Forge Oracle out and level a Minotaur, for example, and then you've got a pretty good value even out of the 1/1, because that will actually be relevant since you won't just flat die in draft if you do that. So I like the way it was designed. Tracker is a straight bomb. Like, Tracker was always decent in draft, like even the old one. It was not amazing by any means, but it was always okay, and it turns out if you make the stats way better and give it consistent, it turns out to be extremely good in draft.
Yeah, then the Forge Oracle into Minotaur sounds really nice.
It's really powerful.
Two decent bodies for level 2.
Consistent.
Consistent. That's really good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So I like the way they've done the draft format. I really, really do. At the moment, I'm doing the same, getting more 2/2s than I would like, even with my record, because I have no idea how to draft anymore. It's changed so much.
It does feel different with the little buffs here and there. The Tuscan Spore Lord debuff, or the 6/6 instead of 7/7, is relevant. 6/6 is much easier to handle with a variety of creatures than the 7 health.
The Tower Scout, I think, is the one I noticed the most, actually. That was actually very good. Not it didn't blow me away, but the point was it was a decent, solid common that I might actually pick and not be too unhappy picking. A bit like a Hydra, almost, is what it felt like.
Yeah, pretty much all the little discussion we did previously on these cards panned out. It ended up being the stuff that did get buffed felt a lot better to pick up and also to play to the board. So I think they did a really nice job with the tweaks, the balance stuff.
I think we've bored Tiny enough, so we'll go into Standard immediately, and I'll hand it straight
Whoa!
to you.
Wait, we were talking about Standard still? I thought the podcast was over.
Alright, so I'll hand Standard straight off to you since you didn't really get to speak at all in the draft portion.
So what are we asking here? What is the metagame looking like in Standard?
What are you looking to play and fiddle around with the new stuff?
Well, so I got my gold last night, and Jake and I spent like 4 hours with the new cards, and there's a lot of fun stuff. I mean, we played with Rage of Cadres a lot. We played with the Suzy Q combos. For instance, I just played Deathweaver, my opponent nano swarmed it, so I shallow graved, followed by Suzy Q, and got 2 Deathweavers back. Basically wasted his entire turn. There's just Suzy Q is really fun. My real question is gonna be, what does the metagame look like? I can't tell. Like, Brood Queen is still great. AT is still great, but I kind of feel like AT might be dead already because Rage of Khadras is so fast that I'm not sure it can keep up. Death 9, 9, 10 Deathweavers or whatever on level 1, they can't keep up with that either. Like, I don't know how AT keeps up. AT is by far my favorite deck. It has been for like a year. And I was like, it's finally there. It's finally there. And then Brood Queen was like, yeah, nice try. And I was like, okay, that's all right. They're going to take care of Brood Queen. And then, like, here's a couple other broken interactions. I'm like, come on! At least if you have broken interactions, give them to the deck I want to play. Give the broken stuff to AT. I can play that. So, the bottom line is, I have no clue what the meta is going to look like. It's really going to depend on the players in the game and what we decide sort of as a community that this meta is going to look like. Because it could look like anything. It could be really slow, and Iron Maiden could be completely broken, and everyone might be calling for its errata. Rage of Khadras might completely dominate the metagame, and people call for that to be errata. I don't know what it's going to look like. All I know is it's going to be crazy, and I hope they fix some of the Necreum stuff really, really soon.
Yeah, because it looks interesting without all the... I think, from what I can tell, as I said, I haven't played Standard enough to really know from point of view, but from what I can tell, if they fix the... No, I don't even know if they're broken, but the point is that they happen and ruins the game that they happen in. So if they fix some of the Tomb Pillager shenanigans and the bonus pack stuff, then I actually think that the influx of cards is going to make a huge impact. And I actually have no idea where to even think this is going to go. Because I don't even know, like, Rage of Khadras I think is insane in like a burn deck, but I don't even know if the burn deck has enough time to play its creatures anymore in level 1.
Yeah, I mean, we found that Rage of Khadras... So the problem is we found that the burn deck just crushes AT. Like, crushes it so hard it's ridiculous. But if you try to play the old style, right, of like, I'm going to play Masters, I'm going to play Shapers, I'm going to play no spells, it's really hard to get away with that against, like, huge Deathweavers and stuff. So I think the burn deck is going to have to find a way to balance playing some spells, playing some early rages to be able to clear that board out. And that's going to become a balancing act. So I'm not really sure if the burn deck is going to be viable or not. We're going to have to kind of see on that one, see where the meta goes.
It's changed quite drastically, I should imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck.
I was very worried that Gnomes was going to come back and start dominating again if once Brood Queen was nerfed. And I don't know that that's going to be the case. It might be, but I don't think that's the direction people are going to take lists. I think there will be a Brood Queen dominating archetype, Brood Queen level dominating archetype. I think that Gnomes, even though it came in literally every flavor it could, AN, AT, everything, it was the same concept at work to the extent of the other players' experience that it ended up being not that fun to play against. And I think if we have no meta into Brood Queen meta into a single dominant faction, people are not going to be happy. So I'm hoping, and actually my goal on the next week or two is not to accept whatever deck seems to be going crazy. It will be build the deck that beats that, and like don't give up on beating that one deck if it starts going crazy. Like, knock it down, because when we had like 5 or 6 decks, the game was awesome. When we had like 12 decks, the game was like crazy. It wasn't necessarily more fun than like 5 or 6, but it was like you're constantly thinking about what you're doing in every match, and it's not, you don't have any foregone conclusions, where in a game when you're always playing the same matchups, it starts to become repetitive with what your decisions are, and that's not playing. That's just like going through a sequence of motions, and we have to find a way as a player base. We have to find a way to prevent that, and I think streamers in particular owe it to their audience to keep people thinking and enjoying, figure out the new decks. If that means getting deck list submissions from people's forum posts and trying them out. I think that's worth it.
So what you're saying is that we should do what we did at the beginning of set 3.
What happened at the beginning of set 3?
Everyone was like, "Oh, Brood Queen was only popular because we found it first. It's okay, guys. It'll be gone in a week."
All right, part of that, I'm gonna accept some blame here. Part of that was the Invitational was coming up. Like, there's no way I'm gonna get out there and be like, "Yes, you have accidentally discovered my Invitational deck that I think is broken." It's like, no, it's not that good. You need to try some other stuff.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, is the funny thing. But
I mean, I think that's what everyone was doing. No one wanted to play their good Brood Queen deck. People were challenging me on stream with really terrible Brood Queen decks, and I'd be like, "Look, it's not that good. Like, you can beat this deck." But no one brought a good Brood Queen deck because they're like,
ever.
maybe no one discovered how good Brood Queen really is. And then we get to the Invitational, and everyone's like, "Yeah, no, we all discovered it." Or not the Invitational, the qualifier. Of that.
Yeah, the qualifier where it's like, guys, this was like the worst kept secret in the world.
Right, exactly. Everyone knew the secret. We all thought it was a secret, and then it was not a secret, even a little bit.
Yeah, it was quite amusing, but like it was pretty funny to listen to that. And the best thing was it was also like Kit, who's always been known for he always likes sort of checking things out longer. So he was on the camp where he thought it would be a good deck, like one of the better decks. But because people haven't got the legendaries yet, then it probably wouldn't be, the best deck. It turns out Brood Queen was just a little too good.
It wasn't just a little too good.
I'm hoping like Susie and random triggers don't end up being a little too good for the metagame to handle. But we'll have to see. It's way too early to call right now.
This is the difference, I think. Those decks are all good and maybe do borderline, like, broken as in like non-functional things that shouldn't happen, like degenerative problems, whereas Brood Queen was just poorly designed. Like, you can't have a card that's like, this card removes any level gated card and then with it comes a removal spell. Like, you just can't design a card that is a body and a removal spell that's non-level gated. Like, the best removal spell in the whole game comes with a card that removes other cards. Like,
yeah,
that just is a non. It just doesn't work. You can't have a card that good.
I'm happy that's been changed now. So the rest of the format, as I said, we'll probably be talking about this for the next like 2 weeks because it's going to be changing more rapidly, I should imagine, considering all the new stuff and the fact that no one has the legendaries. Well, some people do, but very, very few in number. So I don't know. As for the other two formats, since we've just done our thing on standard, Unheroic is coming up this weekend, which I would actually say at the moment. At the moment, the AT Wolves deck is still at large. So the one Techno was playing, a couple of people playing. We did it on a show match thing that me and Heck did, where he played the Wolves deck. And I still think Wolves is at large. So I would not say, hey, look, it's sealed, drop it, it's gone. No, I would actually still play one for the Wolves. Apart from that, though. I don't know if the buff deck can still handle up anymore, the one that was running Batterhide and things like that. I don't know if that still works. You have to figure that out yourself. I still think the Shaper list is good, though. Like, it still has a 100% win rate, so I still think the Shaper list is good. And I'm hoping that the Seal thing is not... Like, Seal was super oppressive, so I'm hoping that that's loosened up a bit and there's some more stuff to go into. That's about it for Unheroic at the moment. Maybe Tarsus will come back. Well, we have like 3 formats dominated by Tarsus. We need to make that happen. But then besides
Wait, are you
that,
predicting Tarsus is going to be good? You're a madman.
I know, right? But besides that, we have the KO Cup qualifier thing coming up for Unlegendary, which I'm currently sort of trying to organize some stuff with Kale for that. But yeah, we've got that coming up a week from now, I want to say. 4th?
The 4th, yeah.
Yeah, the 4th. So we got the 4th, which is a Saturday, so a week from tomorrow. And I think that format's going to be very, very fun to play now, because there was the Burn deck, and there was, like, Zombies got better, which was a deck already. Then the Burn deck got more flexible in what they can play. And on top of that, you've got... I don't think Forge Oracle will make anything happen, but those... those two cards will make those existing decks better, and then we also have Tracker, which I think has made a new deck on its own, which is the AU or AN list. I'm trying AU, I'm going to try AN at some point, things like that. I think that's a list as well. So, at the moment, it's actually good timing right now for a qualifier to come up, because I would say Unlegendary is at its best right now. So, if you want to get a qualification spot for the Kale Cup that's coming up 3 weeks from now, I would highly recommend trying to either win a ladder or get to know Unlegendary well in the next week and then try and win that tournament. So that's pretty much a summary on what set 3.1 has done for each of the formats. Obviously, Draft and Standard have a bit more to them in terms of how to talk about them. But that's pretty much it. So, Heck, did you manage to pick out any questions, or was it just blanks?
First question I've seen is, would you say NU Seal is still the best deck to draft even after Seal nerf?
Do you want to take this one?
Sure, I will.
Yeah,
Just
go for
kidding.
it, Tiny.
No, I was joking.
What is your perception of Seal changing from 9/9 to 6/6, as you know, without having played any draft to that extent?
I don't actually think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I don't play enough draft, but it doesn't seem like a huge change to me. Am I wrong?
I'm tending to agree.
My experience with it is, if you were completely relying on it, in other words, you expected it, you played it because you know that it just wins you the game because you played it, and that's all you had in your deck, you can lose very easily. Because instead of getting that crucial 2-for-1 when you play it, you suddenly just get the 1-for-1 because it is just small enough that somebody's L1 creature can clear your sealed creature. That is when it fails now, and I don't think I think it's less good than it used to be, but it's still very strong. And I don't know if it's the best deck automatically now with just a single seal. I think maybe that's where you start to run into a problem, is when you play a seal when it puts you behind instead of playing a seal when it just keeps you ahead, that kind of thing. So now I think you at least have to think a little bit harder about your decision to play it.
I agree entirely, actually. You pretty much hit that on the head there. David has just put in the World Championship qualifiers, which are coming up on the 11th, which is a Saturday, actually. It's a week after the qualifier for Unlegendary. We've got a World Championship qualifier coming up, and he's managed to put .o in Twitch chat, so it's the shocked face October. That's hilarious. It's happened to me a few times in Twitch chat. But anyway,
yeah.
So that's going to be a major upcoming tournament. I'm guessing both of you guys are going to attend it.
I might not. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I've said this before, and I seem to be in the minority, and I'm fine with that. But I really want to see this game start moving to best of 3 for tournaments, and I'm kind of burnt out on best of 1 major events. So I'm gonna have to kind of see what the metagame looks like. Like, if there's a really consistent deck, I'll play. But if it's any sort of draw type deck, like Brood Queen Mirror seemed really draw dependent, AT is fairly draw dependent. Those were the 2 decks I was considering for the last event. And it's just it's frustrating when things don't go how you sort of draw them up. And it's a long day of best of 1, so I'm sort of holding out hope that at some point the community moves to best of 3, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So we'll see.
Tomb Pillager Pact, consistent deck.
Yeah, I mean, really, if that's the deck, not Tomb Pillager Pact, but if it's just like Deathweaver, Suzy Q, that kind of shenanigans, that's really consistent, and it's not relying on late game draws. So if that ends up being the deck that I want to play, then I could see myself playing despite my reservations. But if it's not, if it's sort of a standard, let's hope to get to the level 3 and hope to draw cards, I may sit out this event. Okay. I'm thinking about it currently. I don't know.
Kale has been moving to Kalari has been moving to doing best of 3s for his major events. There are some problems with people playing Little way too slowly. but after a couple of rounds, you start weeding out the people who are just running slowly, and it actually runs fairly okay as best of 3. I'm not sure if other people will pick up on it as well, but he definitely is. Anyway, Heck.
Yeah, I think there's some issues within client that makes it hard. Like, I know if I'm playing on my iPad, it tends to lag more, and it's harder to play faster. So, like in a perfect world where everyone's on a PC, I think it's very, very viable. But yeah, I mean that's where the problems come in.
Yeah. Heck, are you going to be taking part?
I believe so. I missed the last one, and I would love to be able to, if I can't make it in on by winning one, at least be in contention for the sort of the wild card of this thing. But I think missing one even could be enough to eliminate me from that potential. I'll have to multiple top 16 now, I think, in order to have a shot.
Okay, that's fair enough. Any
I
other
didn't think about
questions you
that.
picked up on, by the way? Yeah, the wild card thing.
I had a question actually that was ignored by Hectares. It was a long time ago. It was Jotto, what is your hat size?
I actually do not know. I have several caps. I don't wear a full-scale hat. I do, however, have a cap.
Alright, fair enough.
Well, there's a question that came up. If you could run any deck in the Forge Watch Invitational, what would you play?
I'm guessing that applies to you two more than me.
Is this with like legal deck or new cards? I don't.
Any
I don't know the
decks,
question.
I'm guessing including new cards.
Let's say new cards included.
Makes it more interesting.
I don't actually know the answer to that yet. Like, this is the fun thing for me right now, is especially since I'm considering not playing in the next major event, I feel a lot of freedom to just have fun with the new cards and not really worry about trying to solve the meta immediately. And so because of that, I haven't pushed really hard to define what I think the best deck is. But, I mean, I might just play a Rage of Cadres deck and try to punch everyone in the mouth really quick before the meta adjusts.
Yeah. I'm up to several lists. I'm up to like 5 or 6 lists that I'm ready to build. I don't necessarily have the cards yet, but I have the idea that I want to play them. And the first that I wanted to build would be this NU Banish Tribal, which is Torgmai and Tomb Pillager. And then
That's not going to work because it's going to be all random banishes, man.
So it's very specific in its implementation. It's plants mostly, and then the
Plants
rest
versus zombies, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's right. So I got as far as Tomb Pillager for the zombie list, and then realized I didn't have any more deck slots, or didn't have any more spots in the deck for more zombies. So it ended up just being some Necrium cards and a plant grouping, and I think that's going to be really fun. But I don't want to invest too much time building that with the current issues going on, because that's going to be double banishes all the time. I don't want to just randomly banish stuff. I want to specifically banish things. So
no, what's going to happen is you're going to play your Tomb Pillager on turn 1, and you're going to like say, should I banish? Nah. All right, so you're not going to banish, and then next turn you play another one. You'll banish a card, and then he'll play double packed.
So good.
It's going to happen to you.
Yeah. So I mean, there's probably things outside of my control with that list right now. So I'll hold off on that one. First up, because I pulled the Nexus Aeronauts, it's going to be an AU Flex that sort of takes into account what's been going on and just really tries to make the most of that little bit of extra flexibility with the center lane creature. I think that will end up being a bigger interaction. And in my first queue with it already like moving into and out of the center lane with Nexus Aeronaut was huge value. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But after that, because that's the list I've sort of been my go-to every time new cards come out, is try AU Flex, see if it's good this time. It hasn't been for a while, but that's my favorite archetype to play. So
I don't think it's going to be that good right now.
You don't. Well, got to try it.
Yeah, I agree with trying it. I think we try everything. I just feel like
right now.
AU Flex it got the least help. Right, so like Necrium is way over the curve. AU Flex is still good, but I just don't feel
one of possibly.
Yeah.
It got the Nexus Aeronauts as well, but
yeah,
it got like a one of possibly on the tracker, and then like some Nexus Aeronauts compared to Suzy Q and like freaking Tomb Pillager. Well, I remember next level plays, if things become Tomb Pillager packed, play like your creature, and if you don't get it, just play 2 creatures, and then play Tomb Pillager, and don't banish anything, so that when he plays Varnish Pact, he doesn't get anything.
Don't banish.
No, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of craziness. Like,
Skip the trigger.
Jake and I last night both played a Suzy Q Deathweaver deck, and it was just madness. Like, it went to player level 5, and the packs were like 3 Deathweaver 3s, and then the next guy would be like, I Shallow Grave, Suzy Q, my Deathweaver 3, and then another. It was total madness. And there's going to be a lot of craziness that happens surrounding that.
That sounds amazing, kind of.
It was the most fun I've ever had playing Solforge, but at the same time, it was 100% luck based. And so, for me, those usually don't go together. But it was really fun.
That's the thing. If games are going late, there's gonna. I mean, if you've got a deck that wins, aside from the banish pact situations, if you got a deck that consistently wins mid PL2 to late PL2 to 3.1 at the latest, I think you've got a list right now, because everything was happening. I think games were regularly going to like 3.3, 3. To 4.1 on Brood Queen lists, and if you can shut that down before sort of your opponent puts together their strongest plays, their massive Doom Rider or Grimgaunt Devourer, I think you're in good shape. So
yeah, I agree with that.
So yeah, flex is my answer, I suppose, to that question.
You just wanted a way to say flex was the best. I like it, Hectares.
I'll say, go ahead and pick one more question, if there is one, then we'll close out the podcast for this week.
The other question was why do you guys all get so salty when you see Stasis Warden? Which it was probably just a for fun question, but I think is a question merits an answer.
Can I answer this one first, since you guys have lost two? Okay, so what Stasis Warden does is it's like, alright, so you want to play Solforge, you want to get a game done in like 20 minutes. Maybe less on average and a little bit more. Like for those really, really epic games that go to like rank 7 and they end up like half an hour long. Stasis Warden says none of that. No, we're going to like rank 12 and I'm going to kill you with Glacial Crushes. And you're never going to hit me. Ever. Like, you might as well concede against Stasis Warden decks if they get to rank 4. Like, you can kill them before then, the deck is broken. But the point is, like, if they get to rank 4, you might as well just leave. Like, actually just go AFK and just have someone have the mouse on auto-click on the battle button. Because you'll never hit them again. And the problem is, it takes like 30 minutes to kill you. That is the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with the idea of it, but one thing I don't like about Stasis Warden decks is it makes best of 3 harder to implement. Like, that's one of the things people point to, is they're like, oh, well, a Stasis Warden deck won't be able to get a game in then. And my answer to that is always, oh, well, like, that's how tournaments work, right? Like, you have to pick not only a deck you think can win, but one that can actually win in a reasonable amount of time. It's how every actual card game works.
Before the iPad that you're playing it on erodes.
Before it becomes next gen, or last gen.
Yeah. Like, oh jeez, it's so slow. Heck, don't you reject, like, anyone playing Stasis Warden on...
I won't play a viewer challenge that is Stasis Warden. That is true.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't realize that.
Just don't. I just concede the game. So if you're trying to get
for me,
yeah,
I was playing AT non-stop lately, and I loved playing Stasis Warden because I just blew all their Stasis Wardens up and crushed them. So it was lots of fun.
Yeah. Like, the other one is Burn. Playing Burning and Stasis Warden is amazing. You just play creatures continuously. You play like 8 threats in level 1. And then they're doing their Stasis Warden thing. You just keep throwing Burn at the face and you outrace them.
Yeah,
it's really amusing. But it's so annoying if you're playing a creature deck. It's just next level irritating. So I guess that's the answer. It takes way too long to kill you when it's winning, and it takes way too long to die when it's losing. That's a good way of doing it. Stasis Warden literally makes the board stasis,
There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, so unless there's anything else from you two, I'm going to go ahead and close out the podcast for this week.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yep, thanks for coming on for this week. We delayed the stream a little bit because Mr. Tinygrimes is on the other side. Because I'm in Europe, he's in like Pacific time, so the time zone difference is absurd. So that's why it got delayed a little bit. But good to have you on for this week. Last week we didn't have a guest, so I'm really happy we did get one for this week. But anyway, thanks all for watching, and we'll be doing this every week. I don't know exactly what time we'll do it next week, but if you keep track of Reddit, it will be up on there. The actual video itself will be going up on my YouTube channel, which you can find a link to below this particular Twitch thing if you scroll down. It will go up there probably tomorrow. So if you missed most of the stream or something, like I noticed Lotus Cobra came in a bit late, then check out the video there so you don't have to deal with Twitch and its video thing, which is just nonsense. But anyway, thanks for watching, and this has been Jotto, Hecht, and Tinygrimes signing off for the week. So see you guys.